Shalom and welcome. President Barack Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have made it quite clear they want a total freeze on all construction in Judea and Samaria. They're talking about the occupation and the suffering of the Palestinian people. Now, the settlements are being constantly called illegal. Anything built over the Green Line is being considered illegal building under international law. The question is it really illegal? Joining me today is Howard Grief, attorney and author of the book, The Legal Foundation and Borders of Israel Under International Law. Howard, welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
So, are they illegal?
Absolutely not. This land was designated for the Jewish national home, and the Jewish people had a right to establish settlements all over the land of Israel. This is written in Article 6 of the mandate, and the settlements were legally established all during the mandate period, and this is the means by which the Jewish state was established. From 1948 until 1967, the land was illegally occupied by Jordan through illegal aggression. And it was only when Israel liberated these territories in the Six-Day War of June 1967 that they were able once again to settle the land. And they had the perfect right to do so, since this was a right assigned to the Jewish people under international law and continues to be enforced.
Okay, so let's get back to basics here. What exactly are the borders of Israel under international law?
Well, at the moment, Israel existed certain borders, but these were not the borders that were originally designated for the Jewish people. At the San Remo Peace Conference, which took place in April 1920, all the lands that were conquered, settled, and governed by the 12 tribes of Israel and their descendants in either the first or second temple period were supposed to be part of mandated Palestine. That was the historical formula that was adopted by Prime Minister Lord George of England and agreed to by France. So that the historical formula, or the biblical formula, was the way the borders were supposed to be delineated. In actual fact, the borders were first delineated in 1920, on December 23rd, 1920, when Britain and France signed a convention to that effect. And
but they cut the borders.
Yes, they did not include all the historical areas in the land of Israel. Originally, they should have included what is today southern Lebanon up to the Litani Valley, but because France was extremely anti-Semitic at this time and also had imperial ambitions to control as much area of the Middle East as they could, they did not allow the Jewish national home to be established beyond what is today the northern border of Israel. But it should have extended, if you went by the historical formula, it should have gone all the way to the southern Litani Valley.
Something interesting, though,
yes.
you're saying about the anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism
yes.
of France.
Yes.
Now, I know a lot of the viewers will say, oh, this is Jewish paranoia, but France actually apologized. It, confessed that they had anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist
yes.
sentiment at that time, and they apologized for that in the 50s, didn't they?
Yes. Well, I'm not making this up because there are archives, and the French Prime Minister at the time, Alexander Millerand, actually expressed such sentiments. They're recorded in the archives, in the negotiations that took place between Britain and France on establishing the northern border for mandated Palestine. And in 1956, when France collaborated with Israel in the Sinai War, they apologized for what they did in 1920.
Okay, so what exactly is the mandate, and what exactly was the British role in this, in their duty?
Okay, the mandate for Palestine was part of the Covenant of the League of Nations, which contained Article 22, which was established in the Treaty of Versailles that was signed in 1919 and ratified in January of 1920. And that's when the mandate system and when the League of Nations was established at the same time. And one of the mandates, Palestine was one of the mandates that was assigned to Britain, as well as the mandate for Mesopotamia, which became Iraq, and France obtained the mandate for Syria. And then this allowed Britain to govern the land of Palestine, and the primary purpose of the mandate was to set up an eventual independent Jewish state. They called it the Jewish National Home. This term was part of Zionist terminology that goes back to 1897, when Theodor Herzl called the first Zionist Congress. But it was a term. In 1897, the Zionist organization did not want to anger the Ottoman Turkish Sultan, and therefore, instead of calling for a Jewish state, they called for a home. And this terminology continued, and in 1917, Nahum Sokolov, in his negotiations together with Weizmann for the Balfour Declaration, they added the word national before home, and it became the Jewish National Home. But when the Balfour Declaration was approved, Lord Arthur James Balfour stated specifically in the minutes of the British Cabinet session approving the Balfour Declaration that Jewish National Home meant an eventual independent Jewish state. And that was the primary purpose of the mandate that Britain was entrusted with. Unfortunately, during the period of the mandate, Britain did not abide by its obligation and never set up the Jewish state as it was required to do under Article 2 of the mandate. And under Article 5 of the mandate, they were not allowed to partition the land, and which they did. And under Article 6, they were supposed to encourage Jewish immigration and Jewish settlement all over the land. And this is the right of the Jewish people to establish settlements. Now,
does this exist till today? That's the question.
Well, yeah, the mandate terminated when the state of Israel was proclaimed on midnight of May 15th, 1948. But the rights deriving from the mandate survived. This is part of international law, that when an international treaty or an international agreement is executed and fulfilled, the treaty no longer exists, but the rights continue to exist. And this was the foundation for the Jewish state of Israel, so that all the rights that were given to the Jewish people under the mandate continue to exist. That includes, of course, the right of Jewish immigration and Jewish settlement.